I was 2 hours from the nearest town when I realized someone had been secretly living on my land and stealing my electricity for over a month. But the moment I confronted her, she didn't apologize. She pulled out her phone, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "I'm calling 911 on you." The mountain air felt different that weekend. Crisper, heavier somehow. As I pulled my truck into the gravel driveway of my family's cabin, something immediately felt off. The porch light was on, blazing bright against the twilight sky, even though I'd switched everything off 3 weeks ago before heading back to the city. My name is Marcus, and this cabin had been in my family for over 30 years. Nestled deep in the Appalachian Mountains, it was our sanctuary, a place where cell service barely existed, and the nearest neighbor was supposed to be over half a mile away. Supposed to be. I cut the engine and sat there for a moment, staring at that light. Maybe I'd forgotten to flip the breaker. No, I was meticulous about these things. The electric bills for this place were already high enough without leaving lights burning for weeks. Grabbing my duffel bag, I headed inside. The cabin smelled stale like it always did after being closed up. But everything seemed normal. I checked the breaker box in the utility closet. Everything was exactly as I'd left it. So why was that porch light on? Then I noticed something else. The electric meter outside was spinning. Not slowly, either. It was moving at a pace that suggested multiple appliances running simultaneously. But nothing inside the cabin was on except that single porch light. My stomach knotted. Someone was stealing my electricity. I'd heard about this happening in rural areas. People tapping into power lines, running illegal hookups. But out here, in the middle of nowhere, I stepped outside and began walking the perimeter of the property, following the main power line that ran from the road to my cabin. That's when I saw it. About 50 yards into the woods, barely visible through the pine trees, was a small RV. It was old, probably from the late 90s, with faded blue paint and rust eating away at the wheel wells, and running from my power line, crudely spliced with electrical tape and wire nuts, was an extension cord, multiple extension cords, leading directly to that RV. "You've got to be kidding me," I muttered. My property line extended well into these woods. Whoever parked that RV there wasn't just stealing electricity, they were trespassing. I could hear a generator-like hum coming from the vehicle, and through one of the windows, I saw the flickering blue glow of a television. I marched straight toward the RV, anger building with each step. This wasn't some desperate homeless person trying to survive. The setup looked semi-permanent. There were lawn chairs outside, a small propane grill, even a welcome mat at the door. I pounded on that door hard enough to rattle the entire vehicle. "Hello, anyone in there? This is private property." Silence. Then shuffling. The door swung open, and I found myself face to face with a woman in her mid-50s. She had short, bleached blonde hair styled in that particular cut. You know the one? And she wore a purple velour tracksuit that had seen better days. Her expression wasn't surprise or embarrassment. It was annoyance. "Can I help you?" she asked, as if I was the one interrupting her peaceful evening. "Can you help me?" "Ma'am, you're parked on my property, and you've illegally tapped into my electrical line. You're stealing my power." She crossed her arms, blocking the doorway with her body. "I don't know what you're talking about. This is public land." Public land? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Lady, this is my family's property. Has been for 3 decades. You're trespassing, and you're stealing electricity. I need you to disconnect that power hookup and leave. Now." Her face flushed red. "I have every right to be here. I checked with the county, and this area isn't clearly marked. Besides, I'm barely using any electricity, just enough to keep my refrigerator running and charge my phone." I pointed at the tangle of extension cords running from my power line. "Barely using any? My meter's spinning like a ceiling fan. You've probably cost me hundreds of dollars already. How long have you been here?" "That's none of your business," she snapped. "And I'll have you know, I spoke with a lawyer and he said I have squatter's rights since I've been here for over 30 days. My jaw dropped. 30 days? This woman had been stealing my electricity for over a month. "Squatter's rights don't apply when you're actively stealing utilities," I said, trying to keep my voice level. "And they definitely don't apply when you're on clearly private property. I'm giving you until tomorrow morning to pack up and leave, or I'm calling the sheriff." She laughed. Actually laughed. "Go ahead and call them. I know my rights. I'm a disabled single mother, and you're harassing me. In fact, maybe I should call the police on you for threatening me." "Threatening you? I'm asking you to stop stealing from me. You're being aggressive and hostile. I feel unsafe." She pulled out her phone. "I'm calling 911 right now." I couldn't believe this was happening. This woman was literally caught red-handed, stealing my electricity, trespassing on my property, and now she was calling the cops on me. "Ma'am, I strongly suggest you don't do that. You're the one breaking multiple laws here." But she was already dialing, putting on a performance worthy of an Oscar. "Yes? Hello? 911? I need help. There's a man on my property threatening me. He's very aggressive, and I'm scared for my safety." She gave them the location, describing me as if I was some violent criminal rather than a property owner confronting a thief. I stood there in disbelief as she finished the call, a smug smile spreading across her face. "The police are on their way. Maybe you should leave before they get here." "I'm not going anywhere. This is my property. We'll see what the officers have to say about that." I walked back to my cabin, pulled out my phone, and thanked God I had just enough signal to make a call. I contacted my attorney, Tom, who'd handled the property deed when my father passed it down to me. I explained the situation, and he told me to stay calm and show the officers my property documentation. 45 minutes later, which is actually fast response time for this remote area, 2 sheriff's deputies pulled up in their patrol car. The woman had emerged from her RV, now playing the role of frightened victim to perfection. "Officers, thank God you're here," she called out, her voice trembling. "That man has been harassing me, telling me I have to leave my home." The older deputy, whose name tag read Morrison, looked between us with the tired expression of someone who'd seen every kind of dispute imaginable. "All right, let's everybody calm down. Sir, can you tell me your side?" I explained everything. The cabin, the property line, the illegal electrical hookup, her admission to being there for over 30 days. I showed them my property deed, my ID, and photos I'd taken of the spliced power lines. Deputy Morrison examined the electrical setup, his expression growing more serious. "Ma'am, did you tap into this power line?" "I don't have to answer that without a lawyer present," she said, suddenly remembering her rights. The younger deputy, Rodriguez, had been measuring the property line with a GPS unit. "Sir, she's definitely on your land, about 60 yards inside your property line." "This is ridiculous," the woman shouted. "I've been living here peacefully, not bothering anyone, and this man shows up making wild accusations." Deputy Morrison turned to her. "Ma'am, I need to see your identification and any documentation showing you have permission to be on this property." "I don't need documentation. I have squatter's rights." "That's not how squatters' rights work in this state," Morrison said patiently, "especially when there's evidence of utility theft. This electrical hookup is illegal and extremely dangerous. You could have started a forest fire with this amateur wiring job." Her confident facade began cracking. "Well, I didn't know it was dangerous. Someone told me it would be fine." "Who told you that?" Rodriguez asked. She didn't answer. Morrison looked at me. "Sir, do you want to press charges for theft of utilities and trespassing?" I thought about it for a moment. Part of me wanted to throw the book at her for the sheer audacity of her actions, and then calling the police on me. But another part just wanted her gone and this nightmare over. I want her off my property immediately, and I want compensation for the stolen electricity. If she agrees to that and leaves tonight, I won't press charges. The woman's face went through several emotions: anger, indignation, fear, and finally resignation. She knew she was caught, and the deputies weren't buying her victim act. "Fine," she spat, "but I'm going to sue you for emotional distress and harassment." Deputy Morrison shook his head. "Ma'am, I'd strongly advise against that. You've admitted to being here for over 30 days, there's clear evidence of utility theft, and you made a false police report claiming you were threatened. If anyone's filing lawsuits, it should be this gentleman. Now, I'm giving you 2 hours to pack up and vacate this property, or I will arrest you for criminal trespassing and theft." The fight went out of her. She slumped against her RV, realizing she'd lost. It took her exactly 1 hour and 47 minutes to pack up her RV and disconnect her illegal electrical hookup. The deputy stayed the entire time to ensure she left. As she drove away down the muddy access road, Deputy Morrison turned to me. "You might want to get some no trespassing signs up, and maybe a trail camera or two. People like her think public land means anywhere they can park." "Thanks, officer. I will." After they left, I stood in the quiet darkness of the mountain night, listening to the wind move through the pine trees. My electric meter had finally stopped its frantic spinning. The cabin was mine again. I spent the next day installing signs, cameras, and even a chain across the access road. My lawyer helped me file a small claims case for the stolen electricity, which the power company estimated at over $800 based on the usage during her stay. 3 weeks later, I received a check in the mail. No apology, no note. Just a check for the exact amount, probably paid under threat of criminal charges. I never saw her again, but I learned something valuable that weekend. Some people have such a warped sense of entitlement that they'll steal from you, get caught, and still somehow believe they're the victim. The audacity was almost impressive. Almost. Now, every time I visit the cabin, I do a perimeter check. And that porch light? I installed it on a timer, because if someone's going to use my electricity, it's going to be on my terms.